Okay, here we go. Last pour. Bring us right to the top. This should put us right to the very edge, and then we can start finishing. Okay, today is our breakout day, and hopefully our molds will come off easily. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. We'll see how that wax work that I put on there. And first thing we got to do is flip her over. Okay, we'll remove these boards. Okay, let's see what happens here. That broke, that's okay. Wow, that wax worked out pretty good. Just have to get some pliers, remove these screws that broke. Got a little bit of, looks like I had a little leak that I didn't notice on this one side. That's what she looks like. I'll tilt this camera up a little bit better so you can see. A little bit closer. It's all staying in one piece. You can see my hands nice and clear. So now I have to pop off the sides. That one came off. So the wax on top of the plexiglass seems to be working really nice. The epoxy will not stick to that wax. Okay, so now I'm going to get outside and hit her with the 120, flatten her out a little bit. Looks like my level was not quite exactly level. I got a little bit of dip in the middle, but that could be because the ends are a little bit higher. Alrighty, I'll bring you back in when I get set up outside. Okay, so this is where we're at. I took off all the silicone and all the screws, and I started to sand with the 120, but I have a high spot, things that I could feel in my hands. You can see where the epoxy had flowed over the wood here, and I got a gap here, a little bit down here, like 1/8 of an inch, and then it flowed over here. So I definitely have a high spot, and the way that I know that now is if you take out the big level and put it on the table and give it a little touch, she'll spin just like that, and it'll tell you where the high spot is once you find the center point. So we have two options now. I can sand and sand and sand with the belt sander and go through belts and get this down, but I think I'm going to put it back on the router table and take off. I have a brand new bit, and I'm going to take off maybe a 1/16 of an inch off these high spots so I can get this perfectly flat, and then we'll do our first flood coat and see where we're at after that. Okay, that's what I'm going to do, get that table set up. We moved inside. It's getting a little too hot out there. It's like 90 degrees, so I moved into the garage entrance to be in the shade, and I do have a canopy, but I have a fan behind me in here. It makes it a little bit easier. A couple things I wanted to show you before I started sanding with the 220. You know, dust is always a big factor, and when I can, most of your equipment has a bag to catch the dust, but when I'm inside and I have a good vacuum, I just connect my vacuum hose to that right there, and you can see that this is pretty loose. So, you know, just using a little do-it-yourself ingenuity, I just get the old duct tape out, which is good for everything, and it'll just make a seal so that doesn't fall out. 2 or 3 pieces ought to do it. This way I'll be able to turn the vacuum on and not have to worry too much about the dust. So that's all that takes. That's it. Okay, so that's that. One other thing, when you start the 220 sand, it's best to get a pencil and to mark your wood just like this, so you're not continually going over the same spot. It's hard to tell what's sand and what's not at this stage of the game. Right now everything is looking pretty perfect, and so as the pencil marks erase, then you'll know that you sanded over that spot. So that's it, a little bit of marking with the pencil. I'm not going to show too much more video of sanding because it's quite boring. And we're going to hit it with the 220, and then we're going to pour some more epoxy. Alright guys, here we go. I got her all ready to go. I brought it up to a 400 grit. I wish you could feel this. This wood is almost like glass now. Let me get my light to work. Oh, there we go. But anyways, we're ready to, I'm going to flood coat it one time and see how it goes. And we're just going to find out just how nice this piece of wood's going to be. But I got my epoxy all ready. Starting to heat up a little bit in the container. And we're going to start right now. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to use my hand just to coat it. And keep in mind I had already sealed this one time, but I sanded most of it off, so this really is just a sealer coat. I'm just letting it run over the edge. I already rounded the top edge over with my sander, just so the epoxy flows over the edge. If you leave it a sharp edge, it'll stop. It'll stop right there. It won't go any further. So you want it to roll right over the top. But that right there is looking pretty good. Looks like we need to hit it with a torch. Looks pretty cool. Well, we're going to let that set up. Keep an eye on them bubbles. And we'll see what she looks like in the morning. It's pretty late at night, but I'm kind of a night owl, so I'm going to babysit this for a couple hours. Make sure everything's good. and probably sand it off tomorrow and then do it again. Alright guys. Well, there she is in all her glory. I think it turned out pretty cool. It's not perfect, but I think it's what the customer wants. It's got a pretty nice finish to her. You can see the grass and my foot.